This project was inspired by this animation that I saw in YouTube. In this project, we'll create an application that randomly chooses 5 numbered balls between 1 and 69 that are white, and then a red ball that is numbered between 1 and 26, also randomly chosen. We'll use arrays to do that, and we'll use Boolean arrays to make sure that we don't have any duplicate numbers. But we're also going to do an animation using sprites. So once we've chosen the numbers, we will display the appropriate balls rolling along this track to their final resting spot. And there we see the 6 numbers that were chosen with the animation. We run that again. Here are the assignment instructions available in our Canvas course site. The alignment to the topics this week is we're going to use arrays to ensure that we get 5 unique numbers on our 5 white balls, so no duplicates. And then we'll animate those balls coming out from the right to the left, rolling along that track using a timer and sprite images. Reiterating the assignment. And then I give you some steps for creating the interface. So that track is a PNG transparent file that is part of our form. It's the background image of our form. And since it's transparent, the color of our form, which I set to maroon, will surround that track. I also provide a logo for you. That's in a picture box. I provide all the sprites for the 69 different balls, numbered from 1 to 69. And since there are 8 sprites for each ball, it's 552 white ball images. And then same thing for the red ball. Those are only numbered from 1 to 24, so a total of 208 images there. Each image is 100 by 100, and we put those into 2 image lists. And set your labels also to 100 by 100. I put the labels in a label array, so I can easily iterate through those. And then the animation is a timer with the interval set to 60 and a button to begin the selection process and perform the animation. And I explain how I coded this. I give you some class level variables and arrays to get you started. Talk about how then you need to populate the class level ball array in the form load. And then for the click event of the button, we're going to generate 5 unique numbers using parallel arrays of a used array with the ball numbers and another array to contain the numbers of our 6 balls. In the tick animation, we're going to move the ball to the left, starting way off on the right-hand side, and move it to the left by a minus 50 pixels each time through that tick event. And when it reaches its final destination place, then we'll go to the next ball until all balls have been shown, and then the animation ends itself. It turns the enabled property of itself to false. Test and debug several times. Make sure that you don't get any duplicates and that the animation looks good. Let me provide you my storyboard. And I'm going to suggest that you try this on your own. And what will follow is I'll walk you through my solution as a code review. Working from that storyboard as our GUI interface, here's the code for the way I solved this project. Start with several class level variables and arrays. I'm going to create my random object as RND. Ball number is an integer array holding 6 values from 0 to 5. Ball index is also an integer array holding values from 0 to 5 as far as indices. It's going to have the starting image index for each ball of ball number. So in other words, if our first number is ball 1, then that starting index of the sequence of the sprites would be 0. But if it's ball 2, that starting sequence would be 8, because 0 through 7 are ball 1. So we're going to keep track of that starting index for our animation. Current ball is an integer value. That's going to be which ball is currently in the animation. We're going to start with 0 and go to 5. UseBall has 70 elements from 0 to 69. We're going to ignore the 0 because we're going to focus just on 1 to 69. And that's going to keep track as a Boolean array whether we've used that particular number or not. Ball stop is an integer. I set equal to 95. I figured out on my user interface where that first ball would come to its resting spot. That 95 is its left value. And we'll use that in our animation to stop that first ball, but then every subsequent ball as it animates will be 100 more than that. Then ball is my label array going from 0 to 5, and that's going to allow me to iterate through those different labels that are the 6 balls. I can't populate the ball label array until the form has loaded. So when we load the form, I created a temp ball label array that has those 6 different labels in it, and then used a loop to place each of those in my ball class level label array. I also moved each ball far to the right, so plus 1500. And that just simply adds the animation. There's a little delay between the balls because that ball is actually animating off screen. We just don't see it. And that takes a second or so to do. Here is the tick event for the animation. I'm going to dim I as an integer equals current ball. And I didn't need that statement. I could just use current ball, but I is a little bit less typing, makes my lines a little bit less than you'll see I throughout. And so rather than having to use current ball throughout this code, I just makes it a little bit simpler. Put a lot of comments in here. I found this worked better if I move the ball first and then change its sprite value. So we're going to start by moving the ball to the left. If ball element I dot left is greater than the ball stop plus I times 100. Now when I is 0, it's just going to be ball stop. When I is 1, my second ball, it's going to be the ball stop plus 100. Third ball stop plus 200. And if that's the case, it's reached that ending point, then I'm going to set it to ball stop. And if it hasn't reached that point, I'm going to move it minus 50 pixels, so I'm moving it further to the left. And when it has reached that point, when that ball stop left is less than the ball stop plus 100 times I, I'm going to set it to ball stop plus 100 times I. If ball element I dot image index equals, here I'm using a ternary, if ball I dot image index is less than the ball index plus 7, so still more sprites to go through, then we're going to increment the image index by 1. Otherwise, we'll set it to ball index element I. That's going to be the 0 index. If the ball has reached its final left resting spot, in other words, the left value is less than or equal to ball stop plus I times 100, we're going to set the image index back to ball index element I. That's going to be that first sprite where the number is upright. Otherwise, we'll leave it at ball I dot image index. If the current ball has reached its resting spot, then we're going to go to the next ball. And that's this line here, current ball equals if ball element I dot left is at its resting spot, then we're going to increment current ball. Otherwise, we leave it as current ball. And if current ball is 6, so we've incremented it from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. Now it's gone to 6. There is no ball 6. We're going to set the enabled property of our timer to false, stopping the animation. Here is the button to create our 6 ball numbers, and we'll conclude with starting the animation, setting its enabled property to true. I want to reset all the balls to false as far as that used balls array. I'm going to dim R&D num as integer and index as integer equals 0. And then for each B in ball, that's our 6 balls of that label array. For each ball in there, we're going to set b.left all the way back over to 1500. Now I did that earlier on the form load, but if I run this again, I want to make sure each ball goes back over far to the right. So we set up that animation for a second time or a third time, or how many times we want to run this. If index is less than 5, I'm working with my white balls. And in that case, I'm going to have a do loop that's going to generate a random number between 1 and 69. And as long as use balls is true, we're going to regenerate that number. Once we find that use balls is false, then we'll set it to true. We'll set ball number element index to R&D num, and then ball element index to R&D num times 8 minus 8. So if it's ball 1, then 1 times 8 is 8, minus 8 is 0. That's my first index. But if it's ball 2, 2 times 8 is 16, minus 8 is 8. That's the index for the starting sprite of ball 2, and so forth. Ball element index dot image index then equals ball index. I'm going to set it to that starting sprite value. Ball index, element index. Else, now here's our red ball. We've gone through those 5 white balls. Our red ball, we don't need to worry about unique numbers. We're only generating 1, so it's going to equal R&D next 26 plus 1. That gives me a number between 1 and 26. Ball number element 5 equals R&D num. And ball index element 5 equals R&D num times 8 minus 8. Now here we're using the image list for IMG red balls. There's one for white balls, one for red balls. And then set the image index to that first sprite. I'm going to increment index each time through that loop. Set the current ball equal to 0. So we're going to start our animation with that very first ball. And then I call the animation by setting the enabled property to true. Now that you've seen the code, let me run this one more time. And I think you'll recognize better how this all works. With each roll, I'm incrementing the sprite and moving it to the left until it reaches its final destination and then advances to the next ball. If you just jumped into this video, you can see all the videos from the Programming Practicum playlist by clicking on the image in the lower right. And if you'd like to be alerted to future videos I create, you can click my picture in the top right to subscribe to the channel.